Thanks everybody for coming here today. Appreciate it. We got a really great session on tap here about the truth about blockchain myths for developers. And very excited to do this session, to say the least. I think you're going to be the first eyes to actually see a brand new tool that has come out, Algorand for Visual Studio, as part of this presentation. And it is by far the quickest way to build smart contracts for blockchain anywhere, anyhow, anytime. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let's get into the session here. So, you know, blockchain myths. I go to a lot of developer conferences, and in particular the last one I was at, I would say it was that conference out in Wisconsin about a month ago, I think, a month or two ago. And I'm talking to developers, some of which I've known for years, and they're coming up to me and they're saying things like, you know, blockchain is a solution waiting for a problem. And, you know, I'm saying to myself, this is a very educated fella, and I don't know how he can have this kind of perception, because this is, again, one of the myths that are out there. And we're going to dispel all of these myths today. Any financial institution, if they're not going to start using blockchain, they'll get left in the dust. You know, it's just like any kind of new technology that comes out. You know, either you keep up with it or you come up with something better. And so you're absolutely right about that. Another one here is, you know, blockchain and cryptocurrency. They're the same thing, right? Well, no, they're really not. And we're going to go into this as well. But, you know, cryptocurrency is really the token that's on the chain, not the chain itself. So the chain itself is what you do all your solutions with. That's what developers utilize to build blockchain solutions, is the blockchain itself. Another myth. So waste energy, and it's not green. You know, that's another knock blockchain has a lot of times. You might see all these, you know, mining plants all over the place, consuming all sorts of energy. So we'll talk about and debunk that one a little bit too. Transactions are expensive and slow, right? This is not really, really fast. You know, if you look at like Bitcoin, it takes a good amount of time to burn a block, like over an hour. And that really isn't conducive for point of sale transactions. So this has been a problem in the past as well. And then blockchain development, does it pay well? I had a lot of questions about this this morning, you know, at the booth, and, you know, is there growth in this area? And this is something else to take a look at too. And then this is one of my favorites. Blockchain is just a Ponzi scheme, you know. You know, a lot of this really just comes down to getting a little bit educated on really what blockchain is and what it could provide. And I'll talk about this today too. And then finally, you know, we got writing smart contracts. It's difficult, right? Well, I kind of let the cat out of the bag up front that those got here early. But yeah, we got an incredible tool that we just released yesterday that builds smart contracts so easy and so quickly. And we're going to show that to you. I'm going to take a picture of y'all really before I forget here. Prove my boss I was here. Smile, everybody. Here we go. Okay, good. We got it. So we got writing smart contracts is difficult, and also, has anybody seen this by any chance? Start up with this. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there or not, but it's a series, and a lot of these myths we're talking about, they talk about them in the series, you know, and it's really actually pretty educational. It's about a new company that starts up that creates a blockchain, you know, and everything goes along with it. So working for Algorand, I could definitely relate to the script on that show. So anyway, that's a good thing. I watch it with my girlfriend, and she works in manufacturing, but she picked up a lot of knowledge, you know, really, just by watching this series. So recommend it. So the agenda we're going to be covering here today, we're going to demystify these blockchain myths that we talked about. I'm going to give a little bit of intro on Algorand, and also writing smart contracts. We're going to show you 3 different ways to do that here today. All of these are really the quickest ways to do it, but by far the first one, C# with Algorand and Visual Studio Extension. Also, Algorand blockchain is really just an immutable, distributed, decentralized ledger. Who here is fairly new to blockchain? Show of hands. A good number of you. Okay, so the makeup of this is very, very simple. There's only 5 record types. Okay, you have a block, which is a slice of time. And over that slice of time, certain transactions occur. So those are associated with that time period. So that's what a block is. First of all, it's a time period. And then transactions are between what? Between sender and a receiver, right? So those are our accounts. And then each account has ability to have assets associated with it, which are your fungible, non-fungible tokens, either creating or opting in and using. Same with applications. Applications are your smart contracts that are associated. And those can also have opted in or creating. So let's get right to it, right? What types of problems can I solve with blockchain? Well, here's the problem. Farmers cannot get paid for grain until they sell it. Now, I just went to Miami a couple weeks ago, and I trained some of the developers here from AgroToken. And AgroToken is a grain-backed tradable asset, digital asset. So what they do is they come out to the farmer's place, and they look at the silos. They measure how much grain is in the silos. Now, normally these farmers wouldn't be getting paid for this grain until they sell it. But what they do is they basically got equity in the grain that they have in the silos. So they give them tokens that they could use based on the amount of grain that they're storing. And it's really a simple idea when you think about it. But the really cool thing is they give them a debit card that anywhere Visa is accepted, they can spend those tokens, right? And that's the amazing part. So now this is providing farmers with a lot more opportunities to be able to, if they want to invest, they can do that. If they need a quick loan for some new equipment, or they get hit with some kind of catastrophe, they can also help that, like from an insurance standpoint. A lot of possibilities. So this did my heart good to help these folks out, really, and they've got a killer idea. You know, it's kind of like what we had once in the United States with gold-backed dollars, right? So now you got something here that's backing this particular cryptocurrency. So very novel idea, and it's something I think that is just an outstanding implementation. So they're doing all that in the Algorand blockchain. Another one, disaster relief. So we just had a big disaster here in the state of Florida, with Hurricane Ian. And so if you know anybody that's in need of some aid, I'm going to take a picture of this. And so they've already distributed over $3 million in funds. So 300 million in funds. Again, this is all powered by Algorand, and to be able to do this globally. Now that's an important. Both this and the last product I talked about are international products. There's no boundaries. These shirts were given out, downstairs. If you didn't get one, stop by the desk later this afternoon. We'll give you one. But it's a borderless economy is what it says on the back. And that's really what it is. There's no borders. There's no borders between countries here. You can do transactions to anybody on this planet, and you can do them in under 4 seconds, which is just mind-blowing to me. And so this is a really another good application for, how to get folks, funds in need. So I think what they do is they create, again, cards. They hand deliver the cards to these people, these debit cards, and they have those available to use anywhere, Visa is accepted as well. Yes?
Would you mind explaining a little further what does it mean? What is it backing it up, and how is the flow? How does it work?
Well, yeah, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about like fungible tokens and how you can create your own. All right, so fungible tokens are the ones that are like coins, right? This is how you think of those. So you can have your own type of currency that you create. So in the case of AgroToken, they created their own currency that farmers can use. And here they have their own tokens for tech aid, and that's how they do these disbursements worldwide, all right, through the blockchain. So we'll dive into that a little bit more in a little bit.
Who takes them and who does them? Because they're as good as the people who are taking them.
Pardon me?
Who takes those tokens that are specific that somebody creates? Who takes them and who does them?
Anybody can. It's a public and open blockchain, so you can acquire those. You have to opt into them to receive them, and then once you opt into them, you can have them. So and there's a wallet that you can keep track of them all in there, the Algo wallet. And so these are all things that you start thinking about differently, right? When we're doing financial transactions or any kind of transactions for charities and things of that nature.
I think she might be asking, how do you go to Home Depot and buy plywood?
Right, we're getting there, right? So that's the point.
And that's what
that's the vision.
Banks try to make now token that they create across versus having their own tokens, that then it has transaction issues. That's not my question. So how do you deal with this transaction side to understand the value of each token?
Okay, there's currencies and exchanges that tell you what the values are. So you can go there and you can see, okay, I want to trade one algo for, one Ethereum coin or whatever. And so they have the value of each of those on these exchanges.
So the
there's,
risk comes as to supply and demand.
yes, supply and demand helps a lot too. Other examples, tamper-proof charity organizations. So anything that needs an audit trail, this is built right in. That's the beauty of blockchain. So not only is it global and fast and available to everybody, it also, you can track donations with an audit trail. What blockchain is, when I showed you that little diagram of the 5 different ring types, it's a immutable, distributed, or decentralized ledger. That's how you think of it. It's read only and then just write once. So it's very easy to detect any tampering. And so with the hashing algorithms that they have between each block. So with that, organizations like Red Cross, for example, years ago, they had some problems on providing the transparency, where the monies came from and where they went to, because it just didn't document it correctly. And even today, a lot of companies work backwards. Like after they've done anything, then they try to make it public in terms of how they spent, where the money came from, where it went to. This is built right into the solution. This is what you get. You can see it because it's public and open. So that's a nice one. Tampering on voting. That's another big item. So once it's into the blockchain, authenticated, boom, there's no questions, ifs, ands, or buts about the voting. Healthcare, again, providing global and medical records globally. Having your access to your records so that the staff that's treating you on site can have access to that information is extremely valuable. So this is another good use of blockchain. Automotive industry, vehicle integrity. They're putting sensors and they're putting in the engines, right, that are writing out the status of the vehicle's wear and tear. Again, that's a good source of truth. That's what we're talking about here, is a good source of truth on all of the information that gets written out to the blockchain. So yeah, question.
If it's okay, I can wait till the end.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the healthcare, I get the voting records to be immutable and stuff, but healthcare, I've been thinking about it, I've seen that before, but I don't really see how it would help. Meaning, they're already sending out the records using HL7 or whatever protocol they're using.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. I go to a new doctor, I got to spend a half hour giving him my medical history. I got to write everything down, what meds, everything. So if I have something that points to this on a blockchain that I can get at, you can build authentication on top of that, right? So for privacy and all that, I can now have that globally available to any team that's working on me medically. And, at the snap of a finger.
That must still be done from a centralized source.
Yeah, but something like fire is going to be from person to person, not from system to system, right? And you're talking about more globally available.
No, my point is, why do you want your health personal information on a public blockchain, even if it's
Well, it's not as much your personal information, but even things like your insurance information or, stuff like that would be needed by, any medical professional, So that's really what I'm talking about there. And then El Salvador is going to be using this they are using it for their government records. They're putting them up on a blockchain. So anything they want the public to be able to get to easily, they're out on the blockchain. The Society for Italian Authors and Publishers, they use NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. They're unique, and each one of those represents a different copyright. So this is another great solution, right, to a problem that we've had where, you go to create a copyright. Number one, it's by country, it's not global, right? So then number two, this is all globally available, really inexpensive to do. It's each transaction is only a 1/20th of a penny. So you post your copyright up on the Algorand blockchain, and it costs you a penny. So this is the new way to do copyrights. This is an industry changer right here, is by doing it through blockchains with NFTs.
Enforce the copyright? Is it more a case of some kind of for example, a photographer wants to do it, because that's what I do too. you want to copyright a photo using blockchain. I mean, I'm trying to get the connection here, and I don't see it.
The connection is it's immutable, right? So if you create an NFT, a copyright, there's a timestamp associated with it, and anybody could see it through any of the explorers that this copyright was done, right? So if anybody abuses your copyright, you can always have the proof to go back to say, this is my copyright. I did it on.
Strip that off of there.
Correct. It's immutable. You cannot change it. So it's out there forever. Yeah, yeah. So good stuff there.
Trying to wrap my head on that.
No problem, no problem. I love the questions. This is great.
That's the question that comes up to my head is what if it needs to be changed? For example, what if somebody through confidence or through fraud or through technical exploits manages to register your copyright to them?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I hear you. Yeah, and there are a couple different ways you can create these assets. One is through just our layer 1 feature called the Algorand standard assets, but you can also create them through smart contracts. And with the smart contracts, you can build the logic and to say, okay, I want this to be updatable. And at that point, you got an option to update that particular asset. So that's in there. All right, so blockchain and cryptocurrency are the same, right? Blockchain is an immutable distributed ledger of transactions. But crypto, right, is an example of a fungible token that could create an asset on a blockchain. So that coin, actually, Gary, you gave me that coin. I took a picture of it. Did you actually buy that on the Algorand site? I couldn't find it on there. Yeah, he gave that to me for Christmas, a little actual coin, so it was nice. And you can't take it and cash it in anywhere, but it's just a symbolic, right? So this brings me to some of the layer 1 features we kind of been talking about loosely here. So we got Algorand accounts. You have a standard account. You have a multi-sig account. So in other words, if you have like a board of directors and you want to have half of them sign off, you can set up something like that to sign the transactions. It's called multi-sig. And then you got logic sig, right, for like smart contracts. If it returns true, it's going to sign the transaction. If it returns false, it doesn't. The ASAs are your fungible, non-fungible tokens built right into layer 1. Real easy to create these. Atomic transactions, either it all works or it all doesn't. Those that come from a SQL Server background, very familiar to transactions in SQL Server. So it'll roll back to the way it was before your whole set of tasks complete if any of them fail. And that really is the secret sauce a lot of times in building blockchain solutions, is using that. Because sometimes you got to create an escrow account, you got to fund it, and then you got to have people start withdrawing from it. And either all of that's got to happen or none of it happens. And so that's an example of where that might be used. And then also there's a reporting with a tool called Indexer that helps you query the data very, very easily. And drilling down just into ASAs, you can see here you got fungible tokens. Examples of these are like in-game points, loyalty points is another big one, system credits, cryptocurrencies. Then you also have restricted fungible tokens that have clawback capabilities. And then on the non-fungible or NFTs, these are more like collectibles, is how I like to think of them. And with collectibles, they're unique. Think of like a baseball card, right? Each one's got a different characteristics to it. It could be new, it could be damaged, it could be unique, very rare, all of those. So these are how I like to think of NFTs. Also, like I alluded to, this is what they use for the copywriting system, right? Where NFTs, each one of these, each copyright is a unique copyright. So that's an example of that particular layer. Now, how about wasting energy? Now, some of them do, right? So there's two, I'd say, big categories of protocols. One of them is called proof of work. That's what Bitcoin, the original Ethereum, had, and that is the one that is very energy intensive. It takes very expensive equipment. It's like a contest. They give a very complex math equation, and the more high-powered computer you have, the faster it runs, and the faster you're going to get some mining rewards as a result of your machine solving the problem to create the next block. Then there's proof of stake, which is
Ethereum just changed to that.
yeah, they did. They did say they went to a proof of stake approach. So the proof of stake is really all math. It's a verifiable random function that will generate the next block. it's unique, and I got another slide on that that explains the proof of stake a little bit more in a minute. Algorand is carbon negative, so this is huge, right? So this is not wasteful whatsoever. And as those of you that saw the video this morning, we took over Times Square on Earth Day, and we put all the billboards were dark except for like this one right here. And the energy that was saved for that was enough to do several thousand transactions, like an Algorand. And it was really just amazing what they did there. And then we also put in the smart contracts to go ahead and provide credits to carbon negative type scenarios. So that is a really good thing. So, we're not wasting energy. We're really giving some back there. Now, blockchain transactions are expensive. Some blocks range up to $2,000 plus per transaction. I was talking to an Ethereum developer, and he was getting whacked with gas fees, and I said, yeah, like $20. He said, no, how about $2,000? And I said, what? You're kidding me. So it all depends on the many different parameters, but what we're seeing is the average price per transaction, like on Ethereum blockchain, was $15 compared to peak traffic last fall as high as a few $100s. So there's a big range there on what it is. So when you go to put your app into production and you got to take care of these fees, that's really something you got to think about in your equation, when you're picking a blockchain to deploy to. Algorand, like I mentioned, is a 20th of a cent. So really, really cheap, really, really fast. Blockchain transactions are slow. Well, in most cases, 1 to 1.5 hours per transaction on Bitcoin. 12 to 14 seconds to mine one Ethereum block, and that's even the case with the new Ethereum. It's still like 12 seconds is what they're seeing. With Algorand, it's under 4 seconds, and you have instant transaction finality. So that really lends itself very nicely to point-of-sale transactions. So the vision that we all have, getting to answer your questions, you want to take a credit card or some kind of card and buy something at any place, right? That's the vision where you can start buying stuff through crypto. And Visa's already set the cadence with that by facilitating, like the Algorand token, and also the charity organization for disasters. That is all built right in to the system. So we're getting there. That's the first time I've seen the ability to actually use credit cards anywhere they're accepted to do transactions really with crypto behind the scenes. So that is the vision. And what about salaries and the opportunities? So the entry-level salary of a blockchain developer, and I did a little research up on ZipRecruiter, and you can see it right here. For a developer, starts at $60,000. A blockchain developer starts at $115,000. So that's almost double right there. And not only that, if you take a look at the numbers, there's 1.7 million jobs found. That's quite a few openings, in USA. And of those, 136,000 have blockchain requirements in them. So that's about 7-8%, I think, is what it comes down to. So that's getting there. But what does the future look like? Well, if you start taking a look at what global spending is going to be on building blockchain solutions, this is it. It's going exponentially right now. You can see it right now by 2024. You're looking at $394 billion, by 2028, and it is just going right up. So the thing here is that blockchain development is really poised, all right, to take our technical lexicon in the same way like client-server programming, asynchronous programming have, and it'll be blockchain programming. And so this is, the future, and we're seeing it right here, right now. And how about Ponzi schemes? Well, those that are not familiar with them, basically a Ponzi scheme organizer will often use the latest technology innovations, product growth industry to entice investors to give their scheme the promise of high returns. And on the flip side, the potential investors often are less skeptical of an investment opportunity when assessing something novel, new, or cutting edge. They figure, this is just going to be, how it's going to be. This is really cool. This is new stuff, But in general, Ponzi schemes basically involve, an investment. It's an investment scam that involves a payment purported returns to existing investors from funds contributed by new investors. So borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. That's really what they're doing. And in crypto, generally a Ponzi scheme involves people being paid not from investment returns, but from money collected from other investors, right? So that is the thing. And there's a great government website to help you determine some red flags, right? And this really goes to any case, even non-blockchain, investment scenarios. It happens. It happens everywhere. And so it's up to you as an investor really to have the education to kind of detect these things. One is, high investment returns with little or no risk. Too good to be true, as my mom used to say. That's it in a nutshell, right? And then overly consistent returns and unregistered investments and so on. And I'm going to give you a link to this deck at the end, so you'll have all of these links to follow up on. Writing smart contracts then are considered complex, and developers often need a year of training before safely handling state. Technologies change fast. State management within a contract involves learning a new lower level language like Teal or Solidity. Teal is our Algorand's underlying assembly language that is used for smart contracts, and Solidity is the equivalent for Ethereum. Developing a skill set which is only applicable to the protocol or blockchain language that it supports, and there are limitations in each cryptographic protocol. Algorand's ecosystem is booming. It is really booming. And there's really some great developer tools that make writing dApps or decentralized apps and smart contracts easy. And that's going to be covered very shortly. So in intro then to blockchain, Algorand, is this, the Pure Proof of Stake protocol. This was our founder, Sylvan Macaulay, is a Turing Award winner, and for his knowledge in hashing algorithms, and he brought that smarts to our blockchain, and that's what incorporated in our blockchain. True scalability. We do protocol updates pretty regularly. And we have a big engineering staff, a good sizable, probably about 30 developers. And then you get 6,000 transactions per second is what they got for throughput, as well as under 3.5 second block times. Also, you got infrastructure longevity. Everything is open source, technical flexibility, a lot of SDKs, transaction certainty, like I mentioned, platform extensibility, very energy efficient, being carbon negative, cost efficiency. We saw transactions very low at a 20th of a penny, as well as true security. So that really, in a nutshell, is the Pure Proof of Stake protocol. Very green and very fast and very secure. And the biggest vertical market, I think, is DeFi, or decentralized finance. We're seeing a lot of this. And why is this becoming so big? Well, up until now, we've always had to go to a bank if we wanted to get like a portfolio built of different stocks and things like that. They have all the tools, right, to do this. And now these tools are actually available to the public, through blockchain. So you can do farming, you can do pooling, you can do staking, all these financial functions you can do through some of these exchanges that are out there. And this is showing stable coins. All right, so what are stable coins? These are, the problem with crypto is it fluctuates a lot in price, right? It goes way up, way down, so it's very difficult to do transactions in native cryptocurrency. So what stable coins are, they're tied to like a U.S. economy. So you can see like a USDC coin there in the second column. There's over 3 billion in circulation of these. These, as the U.S. dollar goes up and down, so does the value of the USDC coin. So that makes it a lot better for doing transactions by using stable coins. Also, you get these decentralized exchanges. Tiny Man, I like that one a lot. So these are fun to really start taking a look at, enhancing your returns. We also announced a partnership with FIFA, which is just amazing. So World Football is using the Algorand blockchain to really run the whole organization, which is just really phenomenal. And if you take a look, they just actually launched this last week, FIFA NFT collectibles. So remember I talked about baseball cards being collectibles. These are actually collectibles that that have little video clips which is really cool. So you open it up, it's not just a picture, it's a video clip of a really famous moment by that country in football. Oh my God, it is just so cool. So anyway, I bought a few of those the other day. And one of the tools that we have that's really great, that's really at the crux of a lot of this for developers, is our sandbox. Very easy to install. What this facilitates is running, building a node that you can talk to when you're doing development work, and it's very, very quick. You need Docker, and you clone that GitHub repo with a sandbox, and then you can bring up different networks with that to do testing with and development with. Everything from, we have a private network, which is just locally, like a personal one to practice with. You got a BetaNet, TestNet, and MainNet are the three other ones that we have. And I showed this video this morning. Take a look at it. Our first half of the year was just phenomenal.
Here's what Algorand has been up to in the last 6 months. They kicked off the year by partnering with the Drone Racing League to launch the first play-to-earn sports game on the Algorand blockchain. Soon after, Algorand partners with Gotham FC to become the team's official blockchain and NFT partner. LimeWire follows suit by selecting Algorand for the relaunch of their digital collectibles marketplace. And then Universal Music Group announces that they will let artists drop NFTs on it. To celebrate Earth Day, Algorand launches their new sustainable smart contract, which automatically allocates a portion of every transaction fee to offset their carbon emissions, reducing their already minimal carbon footprint. Oh, and they announced this via an entire takeover of Times Square.
Holy.
2 senior members of the Algorand team are awarded the Dijkstra Prize, one of the highest honors in the field of distributed computing. And the Boston Globe names Algorand founder Silvio Micali as a 2022 Tech Power Player. Since launching on Algorand in May 2021, real estate marketplace Lofty launches their 100th tokenized property. FIFA announces that Algorand is their official blockchain. And the crowd goes wild. The Australia Zoo launches a Wildlife Warriors NFT collection on Algorand in a bid to raise awareness and funds for the world species. The cross-chain bridge Wormhole expands to Algorand. Nigeria announces that they are launching a major crypto initiative on Algorand in partnership with Developing Africa Group and Koi Banks. And then Napster enters the Web3 space by announcing plans to launch their decentralized, music-first ecosystem on Algorand. And that's just news from the first half of the year. Follow Algorand on Twitter for all the latest updates.
It's very, very exciting place to work. I've been there now about 3.5 years. I joined just before they went mainnet. I just feel like I'm in the right place at the right time. I think I'm going to be helping a lot of people. There's over, 2 billion people on this planet that lack access to modern financial services. Many of them have phones and internet connections. So, this is going to help a lot of people. So this is all good information. So getting into smart contract development, I'm going to go ahead and start out with C#. And this is a brand new Algorand for Visual Studio Extension. And you can see here, there's how many people here have used Visual Studio? Show of hands. Just about everybody. That's great. So there's an extension manager, right? You just go up the extensions and you do a search on Algo and Algo Studio, and you'll see the extension. And then when you do a file new now, you can do search on Algorand, and you can see there's a Maui solution template, there's a console template, there's a reverse proxy that's used in conjunction with the Maui, and there's a template here that combines both of those. It's the Maui app, or the solution one, and then the Maui is the new Xamarin. Anybody here use Maui yet? How about Xamarin in the past? A few more? Okay. I love that tool set. That's what we build all our apps at Faustino Brothers, is using Xamarin. Now it's going to be Maui. I'll give you a sneak peek of that today too as well, or a web app. So this is time for a demo. So let's go ahead and bring up our Windows VM. All right, and first thing I'm going to show you is the extensions here. So manage the extensions. You can see here I've got installed is the Algorand. So I've already done a search. I installed it. And there's more information link there that brings you to tutorials on how to set up. For example, what I'm going to show you here, there's a Maui template to get going. I'll bring up the README for that, and it shows you how to develop that. Now, if I go back over to the IDE, what I'm going to do here is, and then, if you did a file new project, now you go ahead and do a search on Algorand, and then you should see some of these coming up in the list. And let's go ahead and run this. So first thing we're going to do is start the reverse proxy up, which really its main purpose in life is just to hold there's two things you need, a token and a URL to point to for the node. And you really don't want to deploy those with your app in the marketplace. You want to actually get those from a service, and that's basically what that is. I could see that becoming like an Azure service or something like that at some point. But for development, this works. So that's all started up. Now we're going to do the Maui app. And the first thing that you may have noticed coming from Xamarin is there's no multiple projects in here. It's really just this one project, and that'll deploy to all the platforms: Windows, iOS, Android. There's all the platforms are listed here. Mac ties in even for, I think that's for Samsung, like TVs, right? So, brother, we got to start doing some TV apps. Is what we got to do next. All right, so this should be coming up now, and once that does, we'll actually be able to deploy a contract. And here comes our this is a Windows application here, but again, this could be an iOS or Android. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy the main app, and it's going to hit my first breakpoint. So this is just a click event where I've got a function, right, that we're going to call add two numbers. And if I take a look at this and see where that's defined, you can see that this is actually generated for you, and this is the teal that gets generated, and it gets generated dynamically. As you're typing in the C# code, it's going to generate the corresponding teal, which is the assembly language backend code that's utilized. And then let's go ahead and continue over that. And then this is where we're going to deploy the contracts. These are a bunch of routines that are available that you can actually use, things like deploy or things like opt-in or things like execute the code. So these are all available to you. So what deployment does, that actually takes your smart contract now and puts it physically on the blockchain. So now you have it registered up there. So I'm going to go ahead and continue here. And then we're going to see a little ID number come back here on the UI, and that's going to represent the contract number. But just like that, really all you had to do was install the extension, do a file new, and hit the run button. That's pretty much is what we're talking about here. And you have just deployed your first contract out to the Algorand blockchain. We're going to deploy a secondary one, which has a limiter on it. So we're going to say we're going to add two numbers together, but only up to a certain number. All right, so it's going to be a high end for the total is what that's going to end up doing. So that's a second contract. So let's go ahead and put in 20, say for the first number, 20 for the second number, but we're going to limit it to 30. So 30 is going to be the maximum that's going to come back when you add these two together. And now you can see here we're going to call that contract client. And again, we're going to call that method, which has been exposed through what we call application binary interface, but it's doing all that under the covers, which is really great. And then I go to hit this and then come back, and now it's going to execute that final call, and it's going to put the result down here, and you should see that come back as 30. So there it is. So that is the Maui demo. And then similarly, you also have the same capability with web. So let's take a look at the web one. Just here, we're going to run right here. And you're going to see the same type of application and the same type of calls here. But what's nice about this is actually using Razor pages here with .NET Core. And you can go ahead and deploy your contracts. Again, it comes back right back down to the smart contracts. You can see here I'm going to go ahead and continue and add these two numbers together. And then it's going to do the second contract here momentarily. And then here's the limiter one. and then come back, and then we're going to go ahead and see the UI pop up once that gets published out to the blockchain. I got these going out to testnet, and really after you do the file new, there's only a couple settings you got to change for your node, and that's it, and you're up and running. So there we go. Let's do again 20 and 20, but this time let's put the limiter up higher, like 50, and we'll go ahead and add those together, and it should come back with the same value that you'd expect, 40 down below. And there is, you're going to pull it out of your global state, and there it is, 40. So that is the first time this has been seen by the public. What do you think of that? Huh? Good stuff? Woohoo! Ah!
So you charge per ability to use this, or how's it work?
That's free. That extension's free. Yep. Download it.
So what is the benefit to you?
The value to us is building on blockchain and building solutions to become more valuable to the general public, and it's really it. Adoption. Yeah.
Okay, so where is the cut for you?
Well, I mean, there are transaction fees that are associated. Those are like very minimal, though, like a 20th of a penny, and there are things like minimum balances you need to maintain to get the rewards and things of that nature. So. It really is, it comes down to others investing in us and really building on the solution is really the value for Algorand. All right, let's get back to the deck. Reach is another great product. This is a JavaScript product, and what I like about this is it has a lot of built-in smarts, like verification, for example. So it'll verify. One of the problems with smart contracts in the past has been it might be leaving money on the table, then you close the contract up and you never get it back again. This is a really bad problem, and you never want this to happen to you. So they have a lot of automated proofs that will go in there and detect if that scenario is happening. Basically, everything into a smart contract's got to come out. It's got to equal 0 at the end as far as balances go. Because you think about this, if I'm creating an account inside of a contract, it's got there's a private key and a public key. It's got the private key that is used to sign the transactions. If that disappears, there's no way you can get that private key back. And that's the problem. And so Reach really is a good solution to help detect those type of scenarios. I have a lot of good documentation on the site. All these links are on here. So this is a getting started link. I also have a Reach tutorial. I used Wallet Connect, which is our interface with the Algo Para wallet, and you'll see the transactions pop up in your wallet to approve those. And then also I did a Mora game solution. That book that you see there, my brother Gary wrote. Yeah, baby. So you can actually go to that link at the very bottom of that link on the page, and you'll see more information about that. So that was something we always played in our family. If you're unfamiliar with the game, it's a fingers game. You shoot two fingers from one person to another, and you got to guess the total. And it goes right down a row. And the winning team is the drinking team. They get the drinks bought for them. So typically that's how it does it. So there's a verification. So what you see here is the output of running this Mora game. So you can see the Bob wages, there's a wager usually are involved. Then Alice, say, shoots 5 fingers, guesses a total of 7. Bob shoots 2 fingers, guesses a total of 6. Actual fingers thrown 7, so Alice wins the wager. But if and right now the code says like transfer like 2 times the wager because each of them wager an amount. But if you change it to 1, what happens here? Then you get a zero balance 0 at application exit. That fails. That assertion fails. And you can see here it's saying that you got money left over in the account, and it will never even compile. So that's what I'm talking about. That's a really nice feature. Beaker is the last one to talk about. And how about any Python developers in here? Any Python? A few of you? I love Python. When I got hired by Algorand, I had to do Python, Java, JavaScript, and Go for all of our samples. And Python always wins in terms of the least amount of code to do something with. And so typically this is a Web 2 kind of architecture, front end, web server in the middle. With Web 3 now, with Algorand SDK and smart contracts involved, then you can see a little bit more information, plus you got the blockchain itself, right? And so what Beaker does is it really encompasses the smart contract functions and the SDK functions into a higher abstraction. And it's really built to build solutions, just like we saw with the Visual Studio equivalent in Visual Studio for Algorand for Visual Studio extension. So with Beaker, basically it's a Python framework, and it really improves your code organization, deployment, and debugging. In short, it does all the heavy lifting for you. And also very easy to install. And you can see here you've got the starter kit, and these are the sandbox I talked about. That's the commands to get it going. And the components you see here are application class, state, and decorators as far as the smart contract goes. And with application class, all you do is inherit this application class, and it will provide you with a lot of capability. And then all you got to do is define a like all your methods and that you want to have in that particular contract in Python, and you do the same type of thing in C# with the Algorand Studio. And then you see here you got all the logic is detected. You have bare methods, ABI methods, as well as internal subroutines are possible with that. The state is really two types of state, right? You got global state on the entire blockchain, and then you have state that's associated with a particular account. And so this is where you have global state. You can see you've got the type of variable it is, the number of keys, maybe a description, and then this is a JSON file, is a human readable file that tells you all the methods and properties that are in that particular solution. And then you got the local state, where you can see here you've got, again, defining the type, a default perhaps, as well as a description. And then decorators are in the code that do things like external, makes it publicly available, think public keyword, right, in C#, and then internal is private, right, so it's just for that application. And then you have some very externals, which are just single verb commands that do things like create a contract, that does deployment, that deploys it to the blockchain, then you could use it. And so those you can see right here, there's a sandbox class built right in. So this one, when you install it and run it, you just hit the run button, because it's already wired up to your sandbox. And it'll be that way shortly too with the Visual Studio upgrade, so that the next release they'll have this feature in it, the sandbox class. So that makes it really easy to code. And you can take a look at all the functions here in the application. Opting in, clearing state, deleting, prepare. You got add a transaction, get application state, method hints, writing approval exceptions, and get signer information. And then the application client. Now the code becomes very easy to read, like you can see right here. This saves you like over 700 lines of code. So your homework assignment is there's actually a really great Beaker starter kit GitHub repo. And when you see here, you've got this, all the code that you start with, each one of these folders, and then the completed solution is up in the completed code for each one of those. So this is a good learning experience I can recommend. This is our developer portal where you want to get started. Also join our Discord server for support. So you might want to take a picture of that one. This is a good, really those are your two starting points. The Discord server has really grown quite a bit, and we are over 20,000, I think, members now on our Discord server, about half of which are developers. So to recap here, we got code a lot of code samples here we talked about. I gave you links to all those GitHub repos, and as well as the Wallet Connect Reach repo, and then also the Visual Studio extension that we talked about. So in summary, I want to thank everybody for coming. There's the link to the PowerPoint. You want to go ahead and take a picture of that one or scan the QR code. But we talked about debunking some of these myths around blockchain, and hopefully was mission accomplished on that? Did you understand the value of blockchain? All right, that's good. That's good. Mission accomplished. Thank you, everybody. Woo! Thank you very much.